Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, kids who have had a loss with everything that's going on in the world right now, there's really a lot of complications of grief for kids. And we're going to be talking today with an expert on that topic. Would you like to introduce him, Heidi?
Sure, I'd love to. So today we're going to talk with Dr. Tony Sheppard. He is a psychologist in private practice. Several months ago, his mother died, and he has written a book called Group Psychotherapy with Children. He teaches at local, state, and national levels, and Spalding University gave him the Alumni of the Year award in 2018. So I'm looking forward to talking to him more about children and the complications of grief. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Hi, it's wonderful to have you on it. And what a challenging time right now for parents and for kids with the things with the COVID and all that's going on. And if kids have had a loss and then they've got it compounded on top of this, it's pretty traumatic, isn't it?
It is. And I tell you, the thing that I've seen since we started this pandemic journey together in March, I've seen a gradual growing isolation among young people. In a lot of areas, including where I am, school is virtual. Kids don't leave their beds.
Yeah.
We have teenagers who do school, group, individual therapy, all their activities from bed. Yeah. And if they've had a loss, it gives them more time to sit and dwell on that loss. We are facing a really serious challenge here in helping our youth right now with grief.
Tony, I can very much identify with what you're saying on a personal level, and my mind is going into, thoughts about what's going on in my own home. My 15-year-old daughter lost her beloved grandfather 4 weeks ago, and she's virtual, and she does not get out of her bed, like you said, for school. I mean, I'll wake her up, and 20 minutes later, she rolls over, puts her sweatshirt hood over her, hoodie on, and turns on the webcam.
Absolutely.
And everything about school, she's grieving the loss of her grandfather. She has a lot of time to think about it. Yep. So she's very sad. And then all the things that distracted her, chorus, being on the soccer team, going, being at lunch with her friends, walking around New York City, all of that is gone. Yep. So you've got the academic piece and then the grief piece.
And Heidi, one of the things that we say to people when they experience a loss is get back into your routines, live your life. And when those are gone, the person is at a loss. And we as parents and helpers and caregivers are equally at a loss. We can't tell our clients necessarily to go have coffee with a friend or go get an ice cream with your beloved aunt, things like this that are really lost. So we lose a huge set of coping skills that we would normally recommend for people.
So what are you recommending now for coping skills?
Well, to some extent it depends on the individual and what they do. I'm recommending something that I've done in my own life. Heidi and Gloria, I lost my mother on September 22nd of this year. My mom passed away, and I'm doing Zoom meetings with people. So get out of bed, go to the kitchen table or the living room or the desk in your room and engage with people virtually. With a lot of kids, I think, ironically, the thing that we recommend having more control over in normal times, like video games and FaceTime and chatting and things like that, we're recommending that parents not take phones away as a punishment. Because it's their link to the outside world.
Yeah.
So it's really flipped a lot of things over. Until recently, when the weather took a turn, I was recommending that kids get out.
Mhm.
Get out, go to the park, walk to the coffee shop, grab a coffee, walk to the coffee shop, grab a hot chocolate, go get ice cream. Maybe you can't do those things with people and actually sit in the place and drink it, but you can take a walk.
Mm.
Even now, uh, bundle up, and get out. And
Walks are really important, I think, after loss.
yeah,
Moving your body, moving the trauma and the grief, and just getting up and doing something.
yeah,
Like you said, these kids have nowhere to go anymore. They have no place to be except for online.
right, right.
Well,
Yeah.
Heidi just got a dog.
I
Right.
did. I got a puppy and I had COVID on March 14th, and my daughter was very anxious about it.
Mhm.
And there was just so much going on, as you know, this last year that I decided to get a puppy. I never thought I'd get a puppy. I got a puppy for her, and it's been invaluable. On the days where she has a hard time wanting to go to school, she puts the puppy on the bed and keeps it there, and it's easier for her to be engaged in school.
Absolutely.
He has the dog next door, so it's been a good thing, believe it or not.
The two of you know, I believe that I'm a group therapist. I do groups with kids and teens. And I tell you, one of the most touching moments in group during COVID, we're all on Zoom.
Mhm.
We have a young lady who lost her father
Mm.
about 6 years ago, and her grief always comes up around the holidays. And this was shortly before Thanksgiving. Um, Her dogs are always next to her on the bed when she's doing group. And she looked at the screen and she said, "Oh my gosh, do you guys hear that?" Her dog was snoring. And we all sat in the group and just listened to her dog snore and agreed how marvelous and relaxing that was
Mhm.
to listen to the dog snore. So finding those little things in life that we relish. And it was so neat sitting with a group of teenagers listening to a dog snore.
I love that. So I would imagine that the reason the group is so powerful is because teens can hear from other teens and they feel like their own experience is normal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how do you get teens to open up in these groups? How do you get them to communicate? Or do they just naturally do it?
Well, it depends. Some naturally do. I think some, just like we know there are differences in personalities with adults, you have differences in personalities. Some teens come in ready to go right off the bat. Others need to build trust. And I think that one big thing that group therapists talk about is trust,
Mhm.
establishing trust in the group. I think it's important for me to present myself as a trusted adult and someone who is not going to tell their parents everything that they tell me, and that I'm able to validate their experience of life. I think a lot of times kids and teenagers get invalidated in their lives.
Mhm.
So I think creating that environment of trust and safety and security is really important. It's always important too to have some kids in the group. Our groups are ongoing, so we always have senior members who have been in the group for a while that then become the models for the newer kids.
Now, I want to ask you, it sounds like you may be getting kids from all over the United States now with Zoom.
Well, we currently are focused in the two states where we are and where I'm licensed, Indiana and Kentucky. But that's something that's opening up. I'm now uh, approved or registered to do telehealth in the state of Florida.
Mm.
So we could potentially start to draw kids from other states as that opens up.
I'm just thinking, as a parent that are listening to this, that it may be easier to get kids in group online.
Yeah.
I think so. And we've invested in some technology that will allow us going forward to do hybrid groups where some people are in the room and others are joining us remotely.
Because it's not always easy to get kids into group.
It's not. It's not.
So I want to ask you this. I know parents are wondering how a lot of kids are distressed right now. How do I know? So what are some of the signs that my kid really does need help beyond the family?
Yeah. I have a general rule because of my role as a psychologist. Friends and family and neighbors come to me and say, this is going on, this is going on. Should I see somebody? And one of my general rules is if you thought about it enough to come and ask me, then you probably should see somebody. And I'm not trying to be snarky or sarcastic with that. I think that parents tend to err on the side of waiting too long
Mhm.
to seek professional help. So, if as a parent you feel in over your head, it's not because you're a bad parent. It's not because you don't know what you're doing. It may very well be because you need an objective person to help out.
Mhm.
So I think, obvious things like isolating, kids who aren't getting out of bed for anything, they're not, they'll go get food and they'll come back and get in their bed. That's a problem.
Mhm.
That's a problem. Kids need to be trying to get some physical exercise. Withdrawing socially, anger and irritability. If you're struggling to manage whatever is going on with your child, then get a consult. The worst thing that's going to happen is the professional is going to say, gee, I think this is normal.
Mhm.
you know so I that's something that I really tell parents that help nowadays is typically accessible enough that you have little to lose by getting a consult with a professional.
Mhm. Well, what if my husband and I differ on the fact that our child needs help? Maybe he thinks they do and I don't, or I think they do and he doesn't. How do you handle that?
That's a tough issue. I have worked with kids where parents differ. I think that I have often said, let's try this. Have dad call me. Have dad contact me, and I'd like to hear, as a professional, I'd like to hear his reservations and talk with him about that. You know, I think that it's important, to recognize that some parents worry about stigma still. They worry about stigmatizing their child
Mhm.
by taking them to get help. I think we're, generally past those days where that's going to come back to haunt someone. I think we've made progress in that regard. So I think it's important to, also there are resources online that help parents to better understand. I think sometimes the reluctance is a misunderstanding of what's actually going to happen.
I also hear a lot of people, Tony, that say, I can't get my teenager to go to therapy.
Yep.
So is there any advice for those people on how do you get a teen to go and what happens if they refuse?
Yeah, it's tough. I have a policy that I will do part of the intake with the parent
Mhm.
to strategize, to get more information, and then strategize with them about how to engage the child. you know
Mhm.
so I think for professionals, um, we have to be flexible in realizing that um, kids might have some of the same reservations as parents uh,
Mhm.
about stigma and about these types of things, and how do we address those. I've done intakes in minivans. I think that I'm okay with parents saying, hey, would you be willing to meet with Dr. Sheppard twice.
Mm.
And that buys me some time as a clinician to engage with the child and try to get their buy-in.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Tony. I think that sometimes kids think of adults as an extension, maybe of a punitive parent or a punitive teacher. And they might not know that Tony is someone that's an advocate for them, that's going to validate them.
That's
And
right.
meeting with you once, I think I can tell by the way I'm talking to you now, I think they would be put at ease and be like, oh, wait a minute. We actually like this. We're feeling heard, we're feeling acknowledged, we're feeling validated. I mean, so I think getting them to see you once would definitely be beneficial, because I can see a lot of teenagers going, okay, this guy's cool, I want to come back.
Absolutely. It's an opportunity for us to dispel some of the myths around what a therapist is,
Right.
And that's one of my goals, is to have them come away not feeling like they've been in a cold, clinical, punitive type setting, but in a setting that validates them, right, and normalizes what they're going through.
Now, I'm listening to you, and I don't live in your state. And Heidi, I know you practice in New York, and how do I find somebody? What are your recommendations?
I think that a website says a lot about a professional. I think that you can learn a lot about somebody by their website. I know that we try to put ourselves and in my practice into our website. Things like Psychology Today profiles. You can really learn a lot about a person. I would say, look at their picture, read about them, on their About Me page. Notice how they present themselves, and I think that particularly with kids and teenagers, there's some interesting research that shows that children and teenagers who know more about their therapist have better outcomes.
Oh, that's interesting. So children and teenagers who know more about their therapist have better outcomes.
Yeah, that okay. They know my favorite food. Mm-hmm. They know what I like to watch, what movies I like to watch. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that I should reveal everything about.
So it makes you more of just a person, a human person, rather than some doctor that's, which you are, which is 10 degrees above and can't relate to them.
Exactly.
It's more relatable. That makes sense.
So as a parent, when you're investigating therapists, particularly child and adolescent therapists, check them out. Yeah. Google them. Go to their website. And I don't want to say that I don't mean to imply that people who don't have websites aren't good therapists, but I do feel like that's one way that in today's world that we get to know people.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are now have websites.
Mm-hmm. Now give us your website. As a matter of fact, you got a great website and you got some good advice on there too.
Yeah, I have some things for a little bit of something for everybody. My website is www.groupworksky.com.
Okay.
We have resources for grief. We have resources for suicide and self-harm prevention, all kinds of things on there.
Yeah. Now give that to me again.
groupworksky.com.
KY. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Tony. It was really great and very enlightening.
Good. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you for all the good work you're doing with teens and children today.
Absolutely.
Greatly needed.
And thanks everybody for joining us today. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.